Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Max Danielsen Show. I'm your host, Max Danielsen, and joining me today is what is known as the second half of the brains of the baseball team for sure. He is a future doctor, and besides that, we'll let him introduce himself here in a second. It is Mr. Joshua Boring. Josh, welcome on to the show, my man.
Thanks, Max. I'm appreciative that you had me on, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. When you expressed interest that you wanted to be on the show, had to get you on. Already had Voos on, and he mentioned you in his podcast, so why not bring the second part of that? So Josh, around here is tradition that, first of all, I ask you what you do here at Austin College, and then what your favorite sports teams are.
Okay. So I'm a senior here at Austin College, and as you know, I'm on the baseball team here. I am about to complete my fourth year as likely a second baseman. Done other things, though. I've been third and short at other points, but second's probably my bread and butter. Things I do on campus, I'm heavily involved with the Students Today, Alumni Tomorrow organization, and I'm very big over on the Pre-Health Club and the Idea Center here at Austin College. And as far as sports teams, I'm a big NBA, NFL guy, so Dallas Mavericks all the way, and
there you go.
Unfortunately, Dallas Cowboys. But highly appreciative of all the other teams, especially, I'll admit, Kansas City Chiefs right now in the playoffs, which I think we'll get to talking to later.
Yes, definitely. Any MLB team? Are you big?
Oh, yeah, definitely Texas Rangers.
There you go.
Astros, but recently in the media, I don't know if I am an Astros
Oh,
fan
yeah,
anymore,
we'll be talking
right?
about them, too, here in just a second. So we'll start off talking about the big thing that happened this week, especially in college football. That was LSU defeating Clemson by the score of 42-25 in the national championship. Burrow went for 31 for 49, 463 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I did predict 5 touchdowns, but I did not say total or whatever. But in total, had 6 with 1 rush touchdown and 58 rushing yards. And I predicted in last week's podcast, while we were talking about that, me and Najer were talking about the championship game, that this was going to be the statement game for Joe Burrow, why he deserves that number 1 spot for this year's NFL draft. And I think he just cemented that. And not only did Joe Burrow cement that, but I think also for Clemson, Trevor Lawrence also cemented himself when next year he's eligible for the draft.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know it started slow because I think the first 3 or 4 drives were pretty much standstill for both quarterbacks, if I remember correctly. But, I mean, it was a gun show. I mean, they were
and for LSU, it was a heyday whenever number 8 was on someone.
Yeah. Oh, it was insane. And I agree. I was seeing in the media that Trevor Lawrence was actually getting a lot of hate this past week, which I'm glad you say that because I didn't really see what all the kind of the haters were talking about. I thought he did a great job, especially in that first half. I will admit he kind of slowed down in the second half, but I mean when you have a Joe Burrow on the other side who's making 40, 50-yard completions in the blink of an eye, it's just there's not much you can do.
I mean, Joe Burrow easily went, or whoever picks him probably will be the Bengals at this point.
Probably Bengals.
Unless something happens to where they trade for a pick or they get like a generational type player for that pick, which is highly unlikely. But he's definitely going to hopefully reshape that. Hopefully he has a great NFL career. But something else that happened related to NCAA football this week, I don't know if you've seen this much in the media, but apparently Odell Beckham Jr., not only is being investigated by the LSU Tigers for giving money to players afterwards, but he's also having a warrant for his arrest by the Louisiana police for slapping a police officer's butt. Now, video did surface of this, and even though it seemed harmless, I know Odell was definitely intoxicated at that point, but do I think he should have been fined for it? Yeah, probably some type of punishment, but I don't think warrant for his arrest is justified for that, to be honest.
Yeah, and I agree with you. If I was listening to Undisputed today, and I thought they said it perfectly, but I'm going to say it because it's my view as well. He's Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
He's a celebrity. He's a symbol. And
now, question: who said this? Was this Shannon Sharp?
Shannon Sharp said this.
Okay,
yes.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm definitely.
I got nothing against Skip Bayless, but he says some really dumb stuff.
Yeah, no, I definitely watch it for Shannon Sharp. Let's put it that way. But they were talking about along the lines of how if this man was named John Smith or just some casual individual, they don't think that necessarily maybe there would have been the charges.
Yeah.
Which you can't. The point of the matter is you cannot slap a police officer in the butt. I don't care who you are. I don't necessarily know if I agree with them on that. I still would like to think that someone would still get charges if they committed.
I think there would be charges for sure, but not as severe as warrant for your arrest.
Yeah, and the media presence wouldn't be there, but. And like you said, the video did surface, I believe, yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
And,
or when this podcast goes up, that'll be Thursday.
And he was, without a doubt, under the influence or intoxicated, etc. And while I don't think he was being malicious by any means, you can't do that to a police officer. And also, another thing about Odell is that this wasn't all he did. He also was giving out money to the players.
Yeah.
He took a megaphone at one point from a band director.
I did see that.
Yeah, and my thing is that, you know, I mean, here as a college athlete, it's a different perspective, obviously. But this was the LSU players' moment. This was their national championship. I think it's awesome that Odell's there and he's supporting his alma mater. But he made it about him, you know, and it's kind of, it takes away from things, and this is what they said on Undisputed too, but this really hurts other celebrities potentially that want to go to like LSU games.
Right.
Because they're going to be
like Shaq, for example.
Exactly.
If Shaq wanted to go back to his alma mater, which I know he does constantly.
Yeah. It's ridiculous because it's ruining it for other people. And that's where my problem stands with Odell.
I definitely see that. That's a good.
But yeah.
We'll move on though to MLB because if there wasn't the college championship this week, this would be the biggest news, and it's still potentially the biggest news. And like he was saying earlier with the Astros, the Astros have been dealt consequences. Now, personally, I don't think they were that strict. To me, it was a slap on the wrist. So the week started off with Jeff Lunho, their GM, and then manager AJ Hinch being suspended by the MLB indefinitely for a year. That then became the firing squad, I should say, for all across Major League Baseball. First started out with Lunho, then Hinch, then they went after Carlos Beltran with his involvement in that, and then Alex Cora was dismissed by the Red Sox for his involvement with the Red Sox and their cheating scandal. And at this point, Major League Baseball is going through something big. Like, this was steroids era 2.0. Like, that's how big this is. And some people are even saying that this cheating era is bigger than the steroid era. And I want to ask you, personally, what do you think about that? And then do you think it is bigger than that, or the Astros or the players involved should have been dealt with way more consequences?
Well, and I mean, as of yesterday, I think there's definitely more that's going on. I don't know if you saw the video of Altuve.
Yes, I did.
So I'm curious to see going forward about player investigations and if specific restrictions are going to be given to, let's say, Astros players.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching that live when he hit the home run against Aroldis Chapman and him holding his jersey running off. And I remember in that instance, I was like, that was kind of a weird reaction.
And then he said he just did it because he shot.
Absolutely.
Even though I assume earlier you could probably go find a video of him hitting a walk-off home run and they ripped the jersey
and that's
off.
what I was thinking at the time, because I think I was sitting with my roommates at the time, and I'm like, that is a very strange answer to a question like that. Now, would I have ever thought he was holding the wire under his shirt?
Yeah.
No.
And even so, like, the players then went on, like, earlier, this was like a week or so ago, where they were talking about, like, oh, it was a distraction for us more so, but still they continue to use it.
No,
that doesn't really seem like a distraction.
Yeah, and the thing with this is that the Astros are going to be made an example of, or they should be made an example of.
Well, yes.
Because, like the Red Sox, I guarantee you there's other teams that are doing something along these lines.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, just playing baseball growing up, we always try to pick each other's signs off, etc. But where they're held accountable is that they're incorporating technology.
Yeah.
And that's a very kind of unregulated area that the MLB has never really dealt with. And I think going forward, the Astros definitely need to be made kind of a what's the right word for this? A precedent for how they're going to regulate stuff like this in the future. I don't think anything severe like revoking a World Series title.
No, I think that's too severe, honestly.
Yeah, I think
as a Rangers fan, I want that. Don't get me wrong, but that
same. But
it in the grand scheme of things, it's just too severe because you can't take away the greatness that was of that. Even though they cheated for it, yes, I will admit, but they still did that, and who knows what would have gone on. Now, going on with that technology thing, I don't know if you know a guy by the name of Mark Rober on YouTube. There's a video of it where he made an app where basically you can put in, like, for A, B, and C, like, if the coach touches his head or touches his belt for B or something else for C, you can do that, and you do it about 3 times, and then you just enter in whatever he touches, and it will tell you exactly what's going to happen, like if he's stealing and all that. And he made a video, and it was 100% accurate.
That's
and
incredible.
I'm pretty sure they're launching the app sometime this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just in that alone just shows you the amount of technology.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was a NASA engineer. He worked on the Mars rover when it first was launched up there. And for him to be able to do that, now that's easy for an engineer, but just to show you on a basic scale, like that is a vanilla edition of that versus what MLB teams probably have is a way more complicated version, and as well using the cameras to find that out. But that alone, it's insane the amount of technology that's come out since we were kids, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's so quick, too. I mean, it's the last 5 years, it seems like.
Yeah.
But I don't. We were talking about this earlier with a couple of friends of mine, but I don't know if they're going to get to the point where they're going to have the coach be speaking directly to the pitcher now.
Yeah.
On like a regulated channel where the entirety of the MLB can listen in.
Like kind of like for NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that to me sounds like the next step forward, just because it can guarantee.
Well, I think they would go with the catcher though first.
You think?
Because
I worry the hitter could hear it though. That's what I worry.
Well, the problem is then how does the catcher know what the hell's coming?
True. Good point. Yeah.
That's what.
Probably listen in as the catcher, but I would assume not say anything.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, unless you can just talk really quietly.
Yeah.
But, Because, I mean, I guess as a hitter, you don't ever necessarily try to look at the catcher's signs, but.
Because if you look, you get bow tied.
Yeah, exactly. And so.
I remember that happened to one of my buddies, and when he came back in the dugout, I'm like, why did you not bow tie that kid?
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. It'll be interesting the next couple of years.
Definitely. And I remember, actually what happened to the Astros a couple of years ago, I think it was with the Cardinals, if I'm not mistaken, that whole, like, they hacked into their system or whatever. Jeez, man, there is so much to deal with technology in Major League Baseball. But going more so into free agency signings, we'll start off for the Rangers, bringing back Robinson Chirinos on a 1-year deal, and then getting an insurance pickup of Todd Frazier, both on 1-year deals. For Chirinos, it's a decent addition. It's going to fill your catcher hole for a while because the Rangers have never really had a true catcher. Even when they had Jonathan Lucroy, he just went down from his time when he left the Brewers to the time he got traded to the Rockies. And then for Todd Frazier, nowhere near where he used to be. But if he can get back to where he needs to be, and I think that is a very well possibility, especially the amount of ABs and reps he's going to get here, if the Rangers don't go after Nolan Arenado, which they've been rumored to still be going after.
I hope they do.
I mean, I think they need to. Unless the only reason why I believe they shouldn't is because they have Josh Jung coming up. Yeah. And that guy is a monster.
Oh, he's a phenom.
He could be really, really good. I know he's good in Tech. And especially now he's got his younger brother coming up in Tech. Yeah. So hopefully that works out for the Rangers. But I want to ask you what you think of that Todd Frazier signing in particular. Because I know bringing back Robinson is great because he was here for so long and he was a big fan favorite for the Rangers. So a lot of Rangers fans were happy about that. But for Todd Frazier, some fans very confused while others very happy, while some also disappointed.
I'm hoping he definitely, because he's an older guy, I definitely hope he kind of brings a more veteran presence to the locker room. And I'm hopeful. I don't want to, get on him necessarily yet, because I agree with you. He's had better form in the past, but I do think he's still young enough to where he can turn it around. But
I mean, he's pretty old. He's not young.
Yeah. That's what my worry is with the trade. But for now, I'm hopeful. Now, if you see me halfway through the season and he's stinking up, then we'll have a different opinion. But for right now, I'm gonna let things probably settle and play out.
Now, I've said this multiple times throughout this free agency while we're talking on the podcast every single week about the recent free agency signings, and I've been saying that the Twins have been making very, very minor moves. And this one was a bit of a bigger splash, and it's going to even make better for them. Bringing in Josh Donaldson, personally my favorite player in Major League Baseball. I was looking at some stat total, and they right now have, out of the top 10 home run hitters, I'm pretty sure they have 4 of them, if I'm not mistaken. And most of their lineup is putting up more than 20 home runs, which, number one, for the Twins is going to be big because now you have bats in the rotation. The second question, even though they have added some pitching from this year, can't remember exactly who it was, but I remember talking about that. Now they have to fill in that gap that now they have lost with Kyle Gibson, who was a major piece of their rotation, who is now with Texas, which is going to be good because I know their rotation will be at least pretty decent this year.
Yeah.
But for the Twins, looking very, very good so far. I don't know if you want to add on to anything about that or.
Well, and a lot of them are young, and I think they're just arguably the most exciting team in baseball as far as like potential.
Because when you see on paper when your lineup's putting up, every single guy is almost averaging 20 home runs a season.
Oh yeah, you can't help but get excited, and I kind of relate them to briefly going to NBA, kind of the Pelicans.
Yeah.
Where I don't necessarily.
Oh, we'll get into the Pelicans. later on.
That's awesome, but I don't know if they're necessarily there yet. But just seeing kind of like the board and seeing where they could be, that's how I look at the Twins. I think.
No, that's a perfect comparison, right?
Yeah,
there.
I very well think they're setting themselves up for very good winning seasons here in the future.
Yeah, hopefully can. I don't know about the future because they do have a lot of guys like Nelson Cruz and I know Donaldson. They are getting older, so they have a couple more years left, but they're at least putting themselves in a good position for right now.
And I hope they establish like those guys while they're there. They help those young guys. I really hope they kind of like establish that.
I think that's the exact reason why they brought in a guy like Donaldson to help out those guys. Going into something that really kind of surprised me, I was reading this last night online, that Carlos Gomez decided to retire. And I was pretty shocked about that. I didn't realize he is pretty old. He's been in the league for about, I think, 13, 14 seasons.
Yeah.
I remember he was one of my favorite Rangers when he was on the team. Got to watch him hit that cycle whenever it happened. My friend actually got the video in slow motion of when he hit the home run to hit it.
Oh, wow.
But definitely kind of interesting because my second team, I would say, is the Brewers. So I remember his time with the Brewers and where he kind of got to where he was as being a Gold Glove outfielder and being a really decent outfielder. Not, he was a 2-time All-Star. Don't get me wrong, but he was nowhere near like a Mike Trout level.
Oh, of course.
By any
Not
means.
many are,
I don't think it's going to be hard to see another Mike Trout. You won't see that probably in a while.
Yeah, well,
but,
arguably probably going down is
probably the greatest,
statistically at least. But yeah, I don't know if he gave specific reasons in his retirement.
I did not look at that, but
my guess was, because I was slightly surprised too, I didn't realize his age.
Yeah.
I assume it's definitely that though.
Yeah.
I bet his body's talking to him a lot more, and how strenuous a baseball season is. We only play like 40 games, and like my body's talking to me a lot, and I'm 22 years old. But, for someone like him, I bet it was probably just better for him and his family.
Thankfully, my body hasn't done that to me just yet.
No, yeah. You'll get there.
Hopefully. Well, actually, I say hopefully not. Hopefully not. But while we're talking about, there's breaking news all around Major League Baseball, of course, the cheating scandal, signings. But something breaking the gender barrier in baseball, that is the San Francisco Giants hiring the first ever female coach in Major League Baseball, Alyssa Nakin, who will be the assistant coach under Gabe Kepler this season. I want to ask you personally, how do you think this, or what do you think this means for Major League Baseball? Because the one thing I'm wondering is, with this step, do you think it's possible that in the future we could potentially see a female athlete in baseball? I know it's very, very hard, especially the fact, and this is in no way sexist. I'm going to say that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But
we're talking,
genetically and statistically, men have more advantages within athletics. And that's not like anything against women. That's just human anatomy in general. Now, not saying that can't happen, because people said I believe the 4-minute mile wasn't possible, and someone broke that. The human body's always I'm trying to think of the word here. Evolutionizing, I guess that's the best way I can. Adapting. That's the word I'm thinking. But I wonder if one day we could see a female athlete in baseball.
Starting with the coaching, I think that's fine. Because for me, if you have the knowledge and you're
no, definitely. I know the Cardinals did that with well, the person they hired was in arena football. I remember watching. She played up in Allen, Texas, and I remember watching the game. I'm like, I was like, she's not the best. You know, don't get me wrong, but then again, you're going against guys who are studs in college.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though they're in arena football, but they were still pretty big guys.
No, yeah.
So props to her though for doing that, and now she's doing really, really well with the Cardinals. I know that for coaching.
No, yeah, and if you're qualified and you have the knowledge and you can communicate to these guys and they don't intimidate you, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a man, a woman, whatever you identify as. I think if you have something to say and you know what you're saying and you can inspire people, then go be a coach. Absolutely. Now it's a whole other. For me, it's a whole other category when you're talking about playing the sport of baseball. Do I see maybe it happening in the future? I mean, how much things are changing in just the past 5 to 10 years with something like this? Potentially, yeah. I mean, it could. Do I think it should? Not right now.
Yeah, not right now by any means.
And you said it perfectly. I mean, men have different genetics than women do. And this isn't a belittlement to women in general. But to me, baseball is definitely something that should be kept for right now.
And especially the fact that, like, it's not like basketball where, like, you can have the same skill sets because we remember the whole Brittany Griner thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, she probably could have been a lower tier NBA player if she wanted to. If she wanted to.
Well,
but
she was calling out DeMarcus Cousins.
I know. That's what I was about to talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe right now she could beat Boogie, but
I mean, I don't know, and I think it would be something that you would have to actually see to get the message across. But I remember maybe it was a couple years ago, but there was a wrestler in some state, and she had transitioned, he had transitioned.
Yeah,
so
I know exactly what you're talking about right now.
She was performing, right, at a high level and just destroying everyone in her weight class. And the argument was that she was previously a man.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a very gray area as the world is becoming. It's very politically correct and not upsetting people. Yeah. But my opinion, and we're entitled to our right of an opinion, is I don't believe we should mix something such as baseball and like transitioning sexes and stuff like that. So that's just
or at least for right now.
For right now. Now, if we can get something that's more like you can even out the playing field.
Now, if a girl comes up throwing 100,
yeah.
Then we're talking something different.
If you have the skills to back it up, absolutely. I just want to make sure these decisions are made because
not
of
like
skills.
just to be. I don't
to make splashes in the political field. Yeah, you know, just to make a newsletter.
Not to make a news headline.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to be well founded. And if you're good enough, have at it.
Because I remember I was looking at a story like a couple years ago, and it was about some kid who was a paraplegic with 2 legs, and he didn't make the team. And he's like, well, I threw 80 and all that. And I'm like, dude, but you can barely get off the mound.
No,
yeah. Like, it's nothing against you, you know, throwing 80.
That's a great story.
Awesome. It's a great story. But logistically, all the team has to do is just lay down a bunt, and then you're screwed. Like,
yeah, and I often think people forget that while sports is entertainment, it's a job for these people. I mean, this is their living, these athletes. And, you know, they don't, like Odell has shown us, they don't always do the most respectful things and kind of, I think, harshen the image of athletes. Yeah. But, I mean, me as an athlete, that kind of does upset me to think that someone would ever get a special privilege. Yeah. Just kind of because of a handicap such as that. Right. Because this is athletics. This isn't something else. So, I don't know. But like you said, in the future, you know, open-minded to change. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely. All right, we're going to take a very quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the NFL playoffs this upcoming week, a little bit of the upsets that have happened in college basketball, and then just a very, very small portion of NHL hockey. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back. The Max Danielsen Show is proud to announce Gage's Granite as an official sponsor for the Saturday podcast. Gage's Granite is a family-run company operating nearby in the Dallas Metroplex. They offer custom granite, travertine, onyx, and marble countertops to homeowners and businesses since 2000. Give them a call today at 972-243-5600
888-866-6097 or visit gagesgranite.com or on Facebook and Twitter. You can also stop by the main showroom located at 2427 Glenda Lane in Dallas. Gages Granite, a proud sponsor of the Max Danielsen Show.
Hey guys, this is Jason with Lacrosse Monkey. Are you looking for a place to shop for your next athletic season? Monkey Sports is here to help. Whether you're looking for baseball, hockey, or lacrosse gear, if you can dream it, we've got it. We provide both the latest and best on the market equipment for your athlete. Stop by and visit us at 105 West Bethany Drive, right off of US 75 in Allen. Monkey Sports, a proud sponsor of the Max Danielsen Show.
And welcome back to the Max Danielsen Show. Where we left off, we talked a little bit about college football and the championship this week, and then a little bit about MLB, especially with the Astros scandal and some other breaking news there. So we'll go right into NFL. 49ers defeated the Minnesota Vikings by the score of 27-10. Being a Packers fan, I am glad the Vikings are out because the Vikings are a team that can always be an underdog. They always have. I mean, they went in, beat the Saints again. And especially, even though would have loved the Packers to play them over the 49ers, obviously, since the 49ers absolutely obliterated the Packers. But for the 49ers, the question becomes, with all these teams that are falling, which we'll get into here in a second, are they the next to fall? And I don't know if they're the real deal because we said that with the Patriots. We said that with the Ravens.
Yeah.
Now we have the 49ers on the front stage.
Yeah. Well, and we also got Jimmy G in the farthest he's ever gotten as a starting quarterback. And, I mean, he's done very well so far in his playoff showings, as we've seen. But, you know, this is the championship game. This is the NFC. So,
yeah.
And he's going against a veteran as a Packers fan. You know how great Aaron Rodgers is. So,
as Stephen A. Smith says, he's a bad man.
No, he is. And, I mean, it's hard for me to really, even with someone as stacked as the 49ers, it's very hard for me to ever bet against an Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
Unless it's regular season.
Unless it's regular
then
season.
you can bet against them. But playoffs, whole different thing. We'll get into them here in a bit. But, man, the Titans.
Wow.
They upset their second Goliath of the playoffs. They are the true David. Beating the Ravens 28-12. Derrick Henry, of course, goes off again. 30 carries for 195 yards.
Yeah.
He has been unstoppable. Ryan Tannehill has been throwing the ball extremely well. Do you think the Titans really have a good opportunity to win that AFC Championship and get to the Super Bowl, which no one thought would ever happen?
As long as Derrick Henry stays healthy, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a crazy stat with the Patriots. He had 75% of their offensive production. And I think it was somewhere around there for even with the Ravens. I mean, he definitely controls the pace of their offense. Do I think they're going to beat the Chiefs? No.
Yeah, we're gonna about to get into the Chiefs.
Okay,
Actually, that's a perfect transition here.
Yeah.
Chiefs came back against the Texans, and the poor Texans up 24-0, going into this or going a little bit, probably about a couple minutes into the second. Absolutely get destroyed 51-31. The Chiefs, who are looking dead for the first quarter, just absolutely shocked the world, came back, showing that the Texans once again choked.
Yeah.
And I mean, it shows the reason why you never bet against Patrick Mahomes. And even so, I read something that they ran out of fireworks because of how many times they scored.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the thing with the Texans, because they couldn't hold, obviously, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But one thing that's interesting about them was that seeing their scoring drives and early on with the big zero that the Chiefs had in that first quarter, most of those were drops. Most of those weren't defensive stops. The Chiefs themselves were...
Yeah, giving a lot of hiccups in there.
Yeah, they were keeping themselves from scoring. And I remember I was sitting with my roommate, Saif Rahman. He goes here also, but he's a big Texans fan. And, he's bragging about it, etc. And I'm like, man, I'm going to be honest. Like, you're up by a lot, absolutely. But your only reason you're winning is because the Chiefs are not playing to their full potential and they're dropping. If Patrick Mahomes rallies his troops, I mean, they can show they can score 7 touchdowns in 7 drives.
Well,
and sure enough, they did something along those lines. So
how is your roommate taking it then?
Oh, I mean, I think he realized after the third drive that resulted in a touchdown, where they had not yet eclipsed them as far as score.
Mm-hmm.
He knew it was over. I mean, I think everyone kind of knew, actually, when Bill O'Brien went for the 4th and 3,
Yeah.
I believe. Because early on, he didn't go for the 4th and 1.
Yeah.
And they didn't get it. I think that was the big momentum shift
Yeah.
for the Chiefs. And I think that's what really was kind of like the cutting the head off the snake, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because then Patrick Mahomes just took this game by the reins and destroyed his opponents. So
Now we'll move on here to the Packers. They defeated the Seahawks 28-23. Now, Devontae had a great game, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns, but the problem here is what I have with the Packers, and I've known this for a long time. Here's how Packer football works. You play the first 2 quarters, you don't play the third quarter, and you wait till about the 6-minute mark, and then you start playing football again.
Yeah.
They were up at halftime 21-3, and my roommate's like, wow, Packers are advancing. And I said, don't do it again, because he's a Cowboy fan too. And when they were up 33-3, I told him, I was like, this game isn't over yet. And he was really confused. I was like, you don't know Packer football like I know Packer football. This is about to be a close game.
Yeah.
And it's just the defense. They are not a full 4-quarter team.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, great team. Their defense, whenever they play, outstanding. They play outstanding. And this is going to be the one thing for this week against the 49ers, which in my opinion comes to how well, can guys like Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith keep Jimmy G from either scrambling or keep him in the pocket for as short as possible, and B, how do they cover the air? Because the run game isn't going to be the big issue right now. It's about the air game, and that's something the Packers have been pretty good at when they prepare for it. Now, if they have the run game, I think they're screwed. Yeah. Because it's either they prepare for the run game or they prepare for the air game. Mm-hmm. That's how they play. They're not a both.
Yeah, and I definitely think you can make the argument the 49ers are the most complete team.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure they are.
And it's kind of one of those things where you can maybe attack what they're best at, which I would agree is probably more likely to pass. Mm-hmm. But if their run game is on, then you gotta almost tip your hat to them in some ways, because, like you said, the Packers, when they're on, they're great. They can play against anyone. Yeah. But they've been shown to not be very consistent, and I don't blame anyone. Yeah. I don't think any team could actually really necessarily hold the Niners pass and run game. Yeah. Successfully. I think your only hope is to get an offensive team that can put up as many points, and you hope that they're off in one of those 2 categories. Yeah.
The only thing I think is the saving grace right now for the Packers is the fact that the 49ers came in and obliterated them the first time. Yes. And especially where they're playing this week, back at the 49ers Stadium, they want revenge. Yeah. Now, if it was at Lambeau, I think regardless of what the past was, it's going to be hard. But especially going into the 49ers Stadium where the 49ers fans have finally decided to show up once again. But the Packers wanting revenge, I think it's going to be a great game. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss that game, which sucks. Oh, yeah? But I'm hoping that there's a Super Bowl, and I get to watch that.
Yeah. Well, there will be a Super Bowl. We just don't know.
Well, no, I mean like a Packers Super Bowl. That's what I'm hoping. I am constantly, though, going to be checking my phone whenever I go out. I won't give many more details about that.
No, yeah, for sure.
I'm pretty sure you know where that's going there.
Yeah, I have an idea.
But
don't get caught checking your phone.
Well, if the senorita, whoever I'm taking, okay, now it's pretty obvious that the people on the podcast now know. But if she hears me screaming in the restaurant, most likely it's either the fact that the Packers, or I'm pissed at the Packers, or we're going to the Super Bowl again. Yeah. But we'll go on a little bit after that. Or actually, you know what? Screw it. We'll talk about predictions this week. First of all, what do you think the predictions are for this week? And then going into the Super Bowl, who do you think is going to win it?
I think for sure Kansas City is going to top the Titans. It's hard for me to put a numerical value on it, but Chiefs are going to have at least over 30 points.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think Titans offensively, if they do great, their best game ever, they could reach that mark as well.
I think it's going to be a very, very high-scoring game. I think both. I think it's going to be a shootout between them.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I just can't see the Titans hanging that long though. Yeah. With that kind of like offensive juggernaut.
Unless somehow Derrick Henry runs all over the Chiefs, which I feel like they are just But then you also have to remember they have AJ Brown, who's been having a phenomenal rookie season. So you got some weapons to work with right there.
I mean, it's definitely going to be a must-watch game.
I'm definitely watching that game.
It's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
And same with the 49ers and the Packers as well. Right now, I'm going Green Bay for the
like
win.
that prediction. I like that prediction.
Yeah, I mean, I learned early on how great Aaron Rodgers is, being a Cowboys fan. And it's hard for me to acknowledge that.
The best part is, like, it's a total opposite because Brett Favre is my favorite player of all time.
Yeah.
And he was crap against the Cowboys. He was like 2-9, and Rodgers is just unstoppable.
No, he's insane. And that's why it's hard for me to bet really against him in general, regardless of who's standing in his way. But, yeah, I don't know. This one's harder for me to score. But
I think it's going to be a lower scoring game.
I think it's going to be a more defensive played game here. Total opposite of the first prediction.
I feel like the defense for the Packers is going to come out, and they are not going to take any prisoners this game.
Yeah.
The offense is the question, though. That'll be the question. How good Aaron Jones does, how good Devontae does. If Alan Lazard, my Iowa State guy, comes out, shows out again. But we'll move on from that. Going on to the Carolina Panthers, a couple different things. We'll get on to the second Carolina thing here in a second. Panthers go out and sign the mastermind behind the LSU offense, Joe Brady, as their offensive coordinator. Joe Brady was a big part to why LSU was so dominant this year. I think we could both agree on that, why Joe Burrow was dominant this year, why, who's Randy Moss's kid? What's his name? It's Terrence Moss, yes. I'm pretty sure. He had a dominant year. The guy who got 4 touchdowns in the one bowl game.
Oh, absolutely.
Can't remember his name, but I know he did great.
But
for the Panthers,
number one.
yeah. But for the Panthers, I mean, this is a big hire for them. Not only, unfortunately though, they lost Ron Rivera, who I thought would have worked super well with Joe Brady. Yeah. But then again, right now, the Panthers getting that guy as your offensive coordinator is big. And I know for Ron Rivera, I mean, heck, he is now Jack Del Rio as his offensive coordinator, which is humongous for him.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that, and I kind of compare it to the Cowboys' recent situation with Mike McCarthy, is who we ended up getting, which I'm fine with. But
he's got a place in my heart for that Super Bowl win. I always will appreciate it.
Admittedly, though, I wanted someone kind of from the college environment. I almost wanted an Urban Meyer or someone along those lines, or Brady, for example. Because I think they kind of bring a spark with them, the kind of the new way of teaching. Yeah. And I mean, the man was he exudes success, as he showed here at LSU, and that's what the Panthers need right now. Yeah. Is they need some W's and they need some success, and at the very least they need to kind of start building something again. And I liked Ron Rivera as well. Yeah. I was also sad to see him go, but I also think it was kind of appropriate that he did. Yeah. I thought he served a very good tenure there. He got them to the Super Bowl.
Unfortunately, though, they
unfortunately. But
even though Peyton Manning did get his ride into the sunset, which I thought was just perfect for him.
That was just a good Super Bowl to watch. But I definitely think his leaving was. Carolina or Panther fans definitely don't hold him in any negative regard.
Oh, for sure. And he was like, was all about family, which is major. Which I thought was if I was the Cowboys, they needed to go get after him, and unfortunately didn't get him. Yeah, I thought that would have been because the problem with Mike McCarthy, I think it's not much of an upgrade to Jason Garrett.
That's what I worry too. Truthfully,
don't get me wrong. Love Mike McCarthy, but I hated him his last part as a Packers coach.
Well, and he has that old school teaching, which Jason Garrett
That's the problem.
And it's not that it's not effective, but it's not. I think the Cowboys need a complete rewire. They need some new.
I would argue that it's not very, especially with the new age of football. When he was a Packers coach, I mean, last couple of years it was bad. It was bad to watch because fourth quarter blows the game. Yeah. Most of the time when you saw Aaron Rodgers, and I remember they were talking about he was so good with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, and I'm just thinking of that's because Aaron Rodgers was calling his own plays for the last part of the game, which kind of I feel like Matt LaFleur has started to do. Yeah. But one thing I noticed about him as well is if he's down in the fourth quarter and he's calling the shots, he goes to the Mike McCarthy playbook, which I hate the playbook that he has. Still like the man because of his early decade, but not the later decade. And kind of going on with Stephen A. Smith, he was talking about, like, Mike McCarthy, like, where have you been, or what did you do the last time around? Kind of like that one song that I can't remember the name of.
Yeah, what did you do last for me or something? Yeah.
But we'll talk about here a couple of surprises. One of these guys probably should retire, but glad he's not, and that is Larry Fitzgerald coming back for his 17th season.
Yeah.
On a 1-year, $11 million contract. Easily, in my opinion, first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
One of the greatest receivers of all time. Completely helped the Cardinals back in their heyday back in 2009 when they were in the Super Bowl, unfortunately losing to the Chiefs. But Fitzgerald, I know whenever he goes, if it's next year, it's going to be big for the football world because he was such a big influence and a game changer for sure in the league.
And the thing with him, too, is that he, fortunately, because the other guy we're going to talk about played a different position.
Yeah, we'll get into him after the next guy here.
But Larry plays a position where he definitely doesn't get as much wear and tear on his body. And it's allowed for him to, I mean, obviously he makes smart life choices, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's just a great guy all around from what my understanding is. But
no, I hear he's one of the nicest guys in the league.
And watching him play even last year, I mean, obviously he's not in his prime, but I mean, he's still
producing.
He's worthy to be there.
Yeah.
He's a legitimate target for Kyler. So, I'm excited.
And especially having a young quarterback like that, that's what you need.
Absolutely. And he's a security blanket in some ways, he's a guaranteed catch, and I'm excited to see him come back because I definitely think he has some more he can do. So we'll see how he does.
Now, with this guy, before we get into the big news that broke this week, you could have told me this guy retired 3 years ago, and I would have believed it. I thought this guy was done a long time ago, and that is Antonio Gates retiring. Now, don't get me wrong. Antonio Gates, when he was in his prime, was a beast at a tight end. I think he deserves a Hall of Fame spot.
I do too.
Because of what he did when he was in his prime was unstoppable. He was like a Tony Gonzalez back then, which is hard for me to believe that he's been out of the league for that long.
Yeah.
I was personally thinking that's when Antonio Gates retired, if I'm being frankly honest. But we'll go on to the big news that broke. And I remember we were all sitting at the table when this broke. And now, first of all, I accidentally mistaken him for Greg Olsen for a second.
Really?
Well, because I was like, gee, he's pretty old. And, like, I thought Greg Olsen was the younger one and Luke Kuechly was the older one. And I was really confused. I was like, wait a second. I thought he was didn't he already retire and then come back?
Yeah.
And then, like, no, and I looked him up. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking the completely wrong one. Yeah. But once I figured that out, once I had my brain fart over with, I was completely shocked about that because Luke Kuechly, easily probably the best linebacker in the game of football.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the wear and tear on his body, like you said earlier, is a big reason why he decided to step away from the game. Kind of like what happened with Rob Gronkowski being one of the best tight ends of the generation.
And Andrew Luck as well.
The only reason I want Andrew Luck to come back is so that Twitter account comes back.
Oh, yeah.
That was my favorite Twitter account ever.
And it was very sad to me when I saw it because, I mean, here's a guy who's performing at the highest level.
Yeah.
And it's undoubtedly because of head injuries, CT, concussions, wear and tear on your body. But I can't fault him.
No, I definitely not. For
absolutely,
sure.
I don't think anyone really can.
I think he took the right precautions to do that. I think he took the right steps for it.
Well, and you see people out there like, not saying this is confirmed or anything, but I have my suspicions. But a character such as Antonio Brown.
Your suspicions?
Yeah.
He was yelling at police officers a couple weeks ago.
I hope that's due to something like CTE.
And I think it's CTE.
I hope so, because I would hope you wouldn't.
I think that's the most clear,
inherently evil to do something such as this. But
you've seen his tweets, right?
Well, the thing with receivers, and no, I'm not defending him. He's a nightmare.
Oh, I know you're not defending. I'm just saying.
But they have like those kind of like egotistical complexes, and they kind of have that social media following where they instill kind of like reactionary stuff. But no, Antonio Brown, the things he's doing, the things he's saying, his whole like transition from team to team to team in this past 6 months,
and also calling out the NFL very vocally on Twitter.
Absolutely.
And also the XFL and any other sport.
Yeah, and the thing like you referenced at the beginning, this thing that he posted, he broadcasted. This wasn't something someone else did. He thought this was appropriate enough to put it on social media. of him
Instagram Live, yeah.
cussing at police officers, and his kid's mother, and having them see that. It's sad.
Now, you know what's interesting? The first episode of this show was when the whole thing began.
Wow.
When the whole Oakland Raider...
What a thing to be paired with.
First week, I remember talking about Solo, and I was like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah.
Who would have known 18 episodes we are now in, I think.
Wow.
And we're still talking about Antonio Brown.
What a journey.
Oh, man.
I think we still will, unfortunately.
Oh, definitely. I think
he's
when
not
season
done
2
yet.
comes up next year, around September 22nd or whatever date it comes up, we'll still be talking about Antonio Brown. We'll go on here to college basketball. A couple upsets this week. The big one being Clemson, as my roommate put it, won the wrong game here because he's a big Duke basketball fan, and he has a Clemson football jersey that he was wearing, so he was upset both nights. They upset number 3 Duke by the score of 79-72. Just a bad game overall for Duke, turning the ball over in costly situations. The question is, now this is their third upset of the year, what does Duke do from this point?
I mean,
besides turn around, that's the obvious answer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously turn around, but I mean, I think they got to slow the game down. I mean, they have a lot of turnovers too, and I think they rush their shots when they're going down the field or the court field. Mixed up my sports. Close enough. But I mean, Coach K is great, and
probably the greatest coach of all time.
And
besides, why can't I think of the guy's name who coached the Hoosiers a long time ago?
Oh, it's still in my mind too. We'll get back on that.
I'll be looking that up as soon when you're talking.
But the thing with Duke is that they've established a gradient of excellence because of their history and how dominant they've been these past 10 years. And I think that, unfortunately, it's inevitable, but it's kind of like the economy, right? You have your ups and you have your downs, and I think that it all comes in your recruiting
I knew it.
class.
Bobby Knight. That's the guy who I'm thinking.
Oh, that's who it is. Yeah. But I don't think for Duke fans, I'm not really a Duke fan, but I don't think it's really cause to worry.
Yeah.
I mean, you may not make the Final Four this year, but with your kind of system and your kind of team you have,
they'll be back.
You'll be back next year. So I don't really have a lot of sympathy for Duke fans with an upset.
Whenever Jackson hears that, he's gonna be. We'll go on to another upset. We're just gonna briefly go over this one. Alabama upsetting number 4 Auburn. Absolutely almost a 20-point game right here. 83-64. Next one we got here. This one was a bit of an interesting one. South Carolina upsetting. This is another team that's been upset a couple times already this year. Number 10 Kentucky at the buzzer by the score 81-78. At one point, South Carolina, the Gamecocks were trailing by 13 with 12 minutes left in the game. And this is, again, something that we're seeing a lot of teams go down like that. So March Madness this year is going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of new blood as well in March Madness. I think a lot of these, like I said with Duke, they're not obviously out of the picture. They're still great.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think that for going briefly back to Alabama, I was watching a couple of their games recently, and I think they're actually trying to show something.
Yeah, I mean, they're not a bad team by any means necessarily.
Yeah, and I think that, hopefully other teams are kind of taking inspiration from these upsets. And who knows, we may have like a Loyola situation.
Maybe. Loyola Chicago.
Right, so we'll see.
Then the last one we got here, number 4, Baylor beating number 3 Kansas 67-55. That might be a team where we see coming up big this year in college basketball.
Yeah.
And we already know Kansas always is. Baylor has been pretty dominant in the past.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll just have to see how that carries out.
Yeah, it'll be exciting.
We'll move on here to a little bit of NHL hockey. The Vegas Golden Knights hired Peter Dubois from the San Jose Sharks, who was fired just a little bit ago. No surprise here that someone finally picked him up. But the interesting thing, so they fired their coach, Gerald Gallant, after going 24-19-6 this year. Of course, I don't know if you remember the Vegas Golden Knights, their very first year in the league. Went to the Stanley Cup, had a remarkable season. The ironic thing about this is that that Gallant called Dubois a clown back in April. And when the world... What goes around comes around, and now he's replacing him.
Yeah.
Which I think was, and I remember hearing that interview, but then I didn't think about that until I follow an Instagram account called All Sports News, and he put that at the very end. I was like, oh my gosh, I remember that now.
Well, and do you think the Gallant firing was kind of harsh?
I mean, yes, but I think when you have a coach also like Peter DeWar on the coaching pool, that is something. And even so, usually the Golden Knights have been a pretty good team. I know this year they've been very inconsistent, which is kind of why they needed to change.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And
now I am very surprised Stars didn't go after them, even though they
Yeah.
got rid of Jim Montgomery, which I don't know if you followed anything of that, like what happened, but apparently he checked into rehab like a couple weeks ago because like it was an alcohol problem or something. Like,
Really?
what I'm supposing is something happened that weekend, him relating to alcohol, and they're just like, no, you can't be a coach anymore, and they fired him around the spot.
Yeah, well, I mean, kind of briefly going back to, he keeps coming up, but Antonio Brown with the Patriots, and kind of like, 'cause, I mean, you represent a team, you know, and your actions represent the team that you play for, and I think if that would have leaked with him being the head coach of the Dallas Stars, it's definitely, it kind of shows their professionalism, showing that they got rid of him before.
Oh, yeah,
it
definitely.
hit, national media.
Yeah. And I remember during the press conference, they were like, we'll address it, and then they just danced around the bush. They never addressed it. They're just like, we just fired him because of something.
That's very well done by them.
But I feel like also they're like, we're going to explain. Before the press conference, they're like, we're going to explain a little bit, and they never explained it. And I was like,
yeah.
But I knew sometime it was going to come out.
And that was probably for his sake.
Oh, definitely. He said it was a great he has
great
no
exit.
regrets against the Stars. He was like, that's the right move they made.
Good for them.
So we'll go on.
Hope he gets help, whatever his problem is.
Oh, for sure. I definitely, because he's a great coach overall. Stars are having a phenomenal season so far. I got to see it. Both of us
Winter
actually got to see him
Classic.
at the Winter Classic.
Great.
I remember I sent you a text because I was trying to meet up with you, and you didn't respond until after
Dude,
the game.
I had no service. Where
Really?
I was
You didn't
I
have
was
any
top.
service?
I don't know where you were. I was the
Okay,
top
so
of the
I
table.
didn't. Yeah, so I was on the. I was by 121, kind of like by
okay,
where the stage
lower.
was.
I had no service.
I had no service outside the stadium in Fair Park because of like how many people were there.
Wow. Yeah.
I was surprised they didn't set up like temporary Wi-Fi things at all. It was
No,
nothing.
they didn't. I really, and it's funny because I mean, you obviously know how many people are coming, but that avenue is just.
Oh, I remember when I got there. There weren't that many because I got there at 9.
Yeah.
I got there early. And I was
remember-
like, there's not that many people. And then 10 o'clock rolls around, and it's like hour-long line to get to Fletcher's, and it's clogged up in the midway.
No, it was insane.
But it was one of my favorite things. Oh, my
incredible to
God.
see.
It was such a
Well,
great
the
game.
injection and
Corey Berry,
Corey
3
Berry,
minutes.
3
It was
minutes in.
3 minutes in, took the biggest walk of shame I've ever seen.
oh my gosh, in front of how many 90,000 people?
83,000.
83,000. Yeah. Gosh.
Pretty close.
Yeah, I knew something around there, but
Yeah.
great game to go to.
Oh, it was one of my. I don't think any game will ever top that.
For NHL,
unless I
probably
go to
not.
a Super Bowl. Unless I go to the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
We'll go on here just a little bit more. The Washington Capitals re-signed Nicholas Backstrom to a 5-year, $46 million contract extension. This season, 9 goals, 26 assists in 39 games. He's the all-time franchise leader in assists. When I made this, he was at 668, maybe at 669 right now by the time this podcast goes up, or however many he gets.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's one of the best defensemen in the NHL for the Blackhawks, hold on. For the Capitals, he was a very big part of their Stanley Cup run, which finally got Ovi's trophy.
Yeah. Everyone loved that.
But definitely a great signing for them, bringing back a guy. Now, he's getting a bit older, which will be a bit of an issue, especially with how much money now they got locked up on him. I'm imagining it's a little under $10 million a year. It's probably about 9.5-ish, if I'm not mistaken, around that. But definitely not a bad signing for them at all. I don't know if you have anything to add on to that, or
I mean, I agree with you. I don't think he's a bad signing just because of what he's been doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, going back to what you said about Stephen A. You know, he's been doing a lot for me recently. So, you know, he's being consistent. And
do you play fantasy hockey, I'm guessing?
No,
Oh.
but you know, I help some people out with it.
Ah,
here and
gotcha.
there. But yeah, you know, I definitely think he's getting up there in the years.
Yeah.
Some hockey players have shown it's crazy considering how physical the sport is.
Oh, it's
But
very physical.
Rare people show the ability to be very, very old in that sport.
Joe Thornton. That's
Yeah.
one example. I
Yeah.
can't believe he's still in the league.
Yeah, and they still perform at a fairly
Yeah.
high level. So I'm
Yarmir
excited.
Yager. That's one.
That's
guy.
who I think of every time.
I
Yager,
loved when he was
but-
on the Stars. I had a Star shirt of him, and I wore
Yeah.
that thing out. I don't know where it went, but I love that shirt. I was
Yeah.
trying to find one on eBay, but never could find one. So that is going to do it for right now. We're going to go to another commercial break when we come back. Going to be talking about some NBA basketball, just a little bit about that, especially with a very, very big thing that's coming up believe, in a couple weeks or a couple days, actually. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The Max Danielsen Show is proud to announce Gage's Granite as an official sponsor for the Saturday podcast. Gage's Granite is a family-run company operating nearby in the Dallas Metroplex. They offer custom granite, travertine, onyx, and marble countertops to homeowners and businesses since 2000. Give them a call today at 972-243-6097 or visit gagesgranite.com or on Facebook and Twitter. You can also stop by the main showroom located at 2427 Glenda Lane in Dallas. Gage's Granite, a proud sponsor of the Max Danielsen Show.
Hey guys, this is Jason with Lacrosse Monkey. Are you looking for a place to shop for your next athletic season? Monkey Sports is here to help. Whether you're looking for baseball, hockey, or lacrosse gear, if you can dream it, we've got it. We provide both the latest and best on the market equipment for your athlete. Stop by and visit us at 105 West Bethany Drive, right off of US 75 in Allen. Monkey Sports, a proud sponsor of the Max Danielsen Show.
Alrighty, and we are back here on the Max Danielsen Show. Where we left off, talked a little bit about the NFL, especially with the playoffs coming up. Some upsets happening in college basketball, and then a little bit about the NHL. Now we get into your bread and butter, as you said earlier, with NBA basketball. We talked about this team earlier, and that is the New Orleans Pelicans. They are finally getting their star rookie to play. That is Zion Williamson coming back from his injury that he sustained in Summer League. He is set to return January 22nd versus the San Antonio Spurs, and now the question becomes, how dominant can he be if he comes back? Or do you think he might be a bust? That's the question, because Ja Morant, I know, is playing great. Kendrick Nunn's playing great.
Ja Morant, in my opinion, right now. But
RJ Barrett's been playing on and off, kind of.
Yeah, RJ's good. And it's early for him, right? But I don't know if I'll ever see him as an MVP. Ja, maybe, but I think people seem to forget that Luka Doncic, Trae Young, and Giannis are going to be in the league for a while.
Yeah.
Because those three are on a completely separate level. Giannis, of course, already winning his MVP, being arguably the greatest player in the
Luka is
NBA.
Probably about to win his MVP.
Potentially.
Whenever the Hawks get good, Trae Young could be up there.
Young
I don't think he's going to be an
points.
MVP, but I think he could definitely be a high-tier all-star, which he's already leading the guards in the Eastern Conference.
I think he's averaging like 29 points a game.
He's doing good. I knew whoever the Maverick, I didn't think Trae Young was going to be. I knew he could be good, but I didn't think he'd be good this quick.
I didn't think he'd be this good.
Like, after the All-Star break, I was like, people were trying to make the argument that he should be Rookie of the Year. I thought, no way. But I would always say, and no disrespect to Trae Young, because he had a
phenomenal
freaking standout season at the second part. But then again, they call it the Rookie of the Year, not the 2 months after the All-Star break.
Absolutely, and it's very unfortunate for him, because I think he did the best thing for his case. But going back to Zion, talking about dominance, absolute dominance in the paint. I mean, the man is a monster. What I worry about him is injury.
Yeah.
And, I think everyone does now, especially because he got injured as early as he did. But, I mean, there's a reason why he went number one. I mean, he showed us at Duke, and he showed us early on in the preseason.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very capable of putting up 25 to 30 points on pure paint. Rebounds, getting boards, putting it up, posting people up. Now the
hype we've seen from him is nothing like we've seen since the LeBron hype.
And I think that's fair, because I mean, Zion is phenomenal, but he is.
And I say that even though I was like 4 years old at the time.
But I think he definitely has something to prove. And I'm excited for him to come back.
I think everyone's excited for that.
I think the Pelicans are a fun team to watch. I mean, you have Brandon Ingram, who I think's the undisputed most improved player of the year.
I mean, he put up 49 points the other night.
Yeah, career high. And I don't know what was going on with him in the Lakers, but I'm glad he left.
For sure.
I'm a LeBron fan, admittedly, and
I respect LeBron. I am a humongous LeBron fan too, except when he's playing the Mavericks. I don't like it.
Oh, same. But I mean, they destroyed us this year so far. We'll see in playoffs.
Well, it was pretty evenly matched. Like I remember when they played at the Lakers coming back from, I remember Thanksgiving break, and I was watching that game.
Yeah.
And it was the one where Luka hit like that 40-foot step back, and I was like,
over him.
no way.
It might have been
over LeBron.
Yeah, I think it was LeBron. Yeah. And that was, I remember the game. I'm not going to say it, but LeBron, I assume you saw it where he came out talking about Luka Doncic and he's a bad, mofo or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, man.
I mean, that's the most awesome thing is LeBron. Like, players around the league have the most utmost respect for Luka. Now, I remember, I believe it was Jared Dudley who said Luka is a good. I'm like, dude, you're averaging 2.2 points
Jared,
a game.
First of all, no offense to Jared Dudley, but as far as a basketball standpoint, Jared, you don't even play. So it's like, I'm very hesitant.
And he went after, wasn't it Joel Embiid last year, if I'm not mistaken, or was it Ben Simmons? No, it was Ben Simmons. And like,
yeah, no, it's silly.
Frankly, he shouldn't. Okay, be in the league anymore, but but we'll talk about also going on with the Atlanta Hawks. This was where Jeff Teague started his career. He's going to go back probably to finish out that career. Got traded in exchange for Alan Crabb and Trayvon Graham. Now, for Alan Crabb has undoubtedly one of the worst contracts. I remember the Nets at one point, they re-signed him because they thought he was going to turn out to be this really, really good player. Turned out to be not the best. A pretty decent, what's it called? Bench player, but nothing what they expected of him to be. But for right now, what I'm assuming is that maybe the Hawks are going to try to look to either put Teague on the shooting guard or maybe just go Trey shooting guard.
Yeah, I think they're going to maybe mainly do Trey as the shooting guard, at least to start with.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, Trey's shown excellent ability at point.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So, I mean, you got Jeff, who's definitely the veteran.
But then again, they also barely have, I think it's what? They have 4 or 5 wins right now?
Something like that.
Maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe a little bit more.
They need to make something up, right? But we'll see. I mean, I think that trade was good for everyone involved. Yeah. So
now, the question now becomes, with the return of someone for the Mavericks being Kristaps Porzingis whenever he comes back. He was rumored to come back a couple nights ago, did not come back.
Yeah.
And especially when they were playing the Lakers, that was a big thing that, like, what they were missing because even though Kristaps hasn't been producing much on the offensive front this year, even though he's still producing good numbers, he's a defensive monster this year.
He's just such a, 7-foot presence.
7'3".
Yeah, under the board. And
the one thing that really surprised me back in New York, complete opposite. He was the offensive guy, and now he's taking that defensive thing because he knows now you have Luka. You don't have to be the offensive starter you once were.
And I think it works for him.
No, I think it works perfectly for him.
Yeah, and the thing with him is that
I think the money they threw at him? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you are getting the value that you want.
Yeah, and if he can give me at least 20 points a night.
Yeah, and that's something that he is doing.
I would prefer 25.
He's at least putting up at least 15 a game. At least.
Yeah, and I mean if he has like that with a couple blocks, and
ton of rebounds,
gets up the boards and hits up Luka, just puts the ball in his hands more, then I'm fine with him.
No, they work really, really well together.
Oh, they do.
I really think they do.
Dwight Powell as well. Very impressed with him.
I remember when he was a rookie. Man. So I worked with the Texas Legends, which is their affiliate team. And I remember when this guy was a rookie when he came in, and I was like, I don't know about this guy. He's kind of special. I thought he was going to be way better than I think he was, but he's still a very, very good bench piece for them.
Yeah.
I know DeLon Wright's been going off. Seth Curry, that dude shoots lights out. Tim Hardaway Jr.'s the money point, no good. But he is still producing, and he works really, really well with the system that the Mavericks have. Dorian Finney-Smith, another guy who, just like Dwight Powell, guys who you wouldn't have imagined to turn out pretty well and have become really, really good.
They were an
players.
investment, and it definitely paid off.
Now, the last thing we'll talk about here for the Dallas Mavericks, it was announced today that they have a brand new jersey sponsor with Chime. I don't know if you've seen these jerseys.
I actually saw it probably 15 minutes before I got
which
here.
one? Did you see all of them or which one?
I saw the white one.
That's the one that I want to talk about. It's so bad.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I just sent a tweet out to Mark Cuban saying, hey, if you need someone to hire for jersey making, because there's so many, okay, the statement jerseys are kind of grow on me. I like the simplicity about it.
Okay.
I think the reason I didn't like them, don't get me wrong, they're not good, but they're simple. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
City jerseys, the font on the front I don't like, but they've kind of grown on me. I would never buy one. Yeah. Never buy one in hell. But but I still like it. You know, it looks good on the players. That's the most important thing. Yeah. You know, I think they need a rebrand eventually. But the white ones, they look nice. I love the blues. You know, the city ones, the away blues, or whatever they're called now, they look nice. They did a good job with that. Then they decide for the statement jersey that mess up the simplicity about it, decide to go green instead of white, which honestly that would have looked...
Change the court, too, when they play.
Yeah, I mean, the court looks good. The court looks good, in my opinion.
With the green
the city.
On it?
Yeah, I think that looks good. But... the simplicity I'm talking about is like the jersey. The sponsor title is green chime instead of white chime, which makes no sense. And then for the white jersey that you're talking about, they just throw a green chime right there. And it wasn't even like, you know, it wasn't that P. Diddy green. Yeah, it was just neon green.
Yeah, very neon. And it definitely catches your eye.
And I think that's the idea of it. And like, but the question is, why are there so many flaws that go for the Mavericks branding team?
Yeah. Well, and Chime is involved in banking, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about them as a company, what they do, but, I mean, I assume it's definitely a money thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think they needed to do that, and the Mavericks are just like, okay, whatever, not a big deal.
Yeah, we don't really
Even
care
though Cuban says he's got the best in the business for his...
I know. Yeah, I was thinking that exact same thing.
I remember he went off at fans for that, and I was like, what? No, you don't do that.
Yeah.
Because there's one guy I follow on Twitter, which he's... I bought his hoodie off him, like the Pegasus thing in Dallas, and he made like a city edition one, but like purple, blue, like accent, and it looks dope.
Yeah.
I forget, but he like made all these he always does these jersey rebrand designs, and they look phenomenal.
Yeah.
They look perfect, and I always tag Mark Cuban on. I'm like, hire this guy, please.
Yeah, honestly.
But yeah. I think that's going to be all we're going to talk about today. Before we sign off, just wanted to give one more thing. If you remember from last week's podcast about the Herschel Walker event that's coming up on January 20th, I'll be talking to Herschel for a little bit. Now, from what I know, it will not be me personally asking the questions, but the moderator asking my questions. So I appreciate David Reed from the Sherman News over here. I think it's K12, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe crucified because of that if that's not his station. But a shout out there to David Reed. I'll be following him and Herschel around all day long. So that'll be fun. So if you are around the Sherman area, why not come visit there? Teachers and students, it is free to attend and $15 at the door for anyone else to come and meet Herschel Walker at the breakfast, which will start at 7:15 a.m. in the Mason Complex, right in the Sid Rich Gymnasium. And I was there today when they were setting up, and it looks phenomenal.
Great.
It already looks phenomenal. So that's going to do it for today. Josh, thank you so much for coming on. You've been an awesome guest. It's tradition around here that I ask if you have any final remarks.
No, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun, and glad to be here.
Yeah, definitely glad to be here. We wish you well, especially with this upcoming baseball season and the fact that you're graduating.
Yeah, I know.
Which is big. I'm guessing you're about to go into medical school afterwards?
Yeah, so I'm actually waiting to hear on Tech right now. So that's why I have a soft spot in my heart for
Patty
Mahomes and everything. So.
That's a very good thing. Well, that is going to do it from the Max Danielsen Show, as I thank you for watching. From myself, Max Danielsen, and as always, have a pleasant good morning, a good afternoon, or good evening to you, wherever or whenever you may be watching. Thanks, y'all, and see you next week.